So now the refugees, the wandering, the worries, and the wonders. Naema Tahir is our note speaker today, who is one of the Netherlands' most well-known authors. She was born in the United Kingdom to Pakistani immigrants and bred in the United Kingdom, Pakistan, and the Netherlands. She has authored numerous books and articles on such issues as identity, migration, integration, and the sense of belonging, and is currently working in her PhD on arranged marriage. Please welcome with me, Naema Tahir.
Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. How can I beat the previous performance? I am very nervous already. So if it gets boring, I'm just going to, shower some glitter. So there's a lot of glitter here. I hope that's okay, Seema, Samara. So it's such a privilege to stand next to Malala. I'm going to cry now, but I'll try not to, because I'm also from Pakistan. And, Pakistan is a troubled country. It's a beautiful country as well. Many, many incidences happened in Pakistan. Murder of the first female Prime Minister, Benazir Bhutto, a murder of a Qawwali singer. Many, many incidences happened. But when Malala was shot, that was like a black day for me. But she survived, and her story is really, really relevant to all refugees, but also her desire to one day return to her home country to build her home country. And I think that's a wonderful dream. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been asked to share some of my ideas on refugees. I'm not a refugee myself. I'm a daughter of immigrants from Pakistan who first moved to England, where I was born, and then who came to the Netherlands. I also lived a few years in Pakistan. I read law at Leiden University. Of course, Utrecht is better, but Leiden is also a wonderful university. I practiced law, and then I started writing about the issues of our multicultural society. And one of the issues is the refugee issue. I had this dream of becoming a lawyer and working particularly for refugees. And when I worked as a refugee lawyer, I learned a piece of wisdom which I want to share with you today. And it kind of underlines the importance of being here today. So I was working as a refugee lawyer in Lagos, Nigeria, stationed there for the UNHCR. And my senior staff member said, working with refugees has been the most rewarding professional experience of her life. So, of course, you have many fields of law, but she said refugee law is the most rewarding. And I asked her why. Why is it most rewarding? She said, well, imagine a human right, the right to education, or the right to medical care, or the right to privacy, or the right to housing, the right to fresh water, the right to express your opinions, the right to exercise the religion you choose. Imagine any human right that can be violated in your life, and then imagine a refugee. For a refugee, all of the human rights have been violated. So the refugee has no education, has no housing, no protection, no government protecting that person, maybe even a government persecuting that person. A refugee has lost even its tangible past. So a refugee contains all of the human rights violations, and for that reason, for her, working with refugees was very, very rewarding. So I congratulate you that you are here today to talk about refugees. Now, I have a PowerPoint, and it's moving magically and giving all the spoilers, so I can just go away because...
You can have this. And you just
do I need to...
Yeah, so you know where...
Oh, okay. So if I don't do anything, it will move by itself. Is that true? Okay. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. I don't know what's... Technology is also not my cup of tea. So I want to talk about identities of refugees. And I think we can, kind of capture them in WWW. That's magical. They wander, they're wanderers. They make a physical journey. They worry, they're worriers. Do we have a safe place to go to? Will we be welcomed? And they wonder, what now? Are we welcome? What about our family members back home? So I want you to hold on to these three identities. I'm going to add a different dimension towards the end of my speech. But the first question is this truly the only identity? Are these three the only identities refugees can have, or are there many more? So I want to share an anecdote to help answer that question. So I explained to you a bit of my background. When I was nearly 14, my parents decided to move back to Pakistan. It was my first time. So I lived in Pakistan from the age of 14 to 16. Visited a school and got accustomed to Pakistani way of life. And when we were going to school, me and my brothers and sisters, we would pass an old lady. And she had a cow, sold milk and other produce from the cow, and she had a pile of wood. And she would sell wood to people who needed the wood for cooking or things like that. And she had a 12-year-old son or grandson, I'm not sure. She looked very old to me, but maybe she was only 30 years old with a son who was 12, and that's it. Maybe she was 60 years old. And whenever we would pass, she would bless us. And being a Muslim, I knew because she would say Arabic words. She would bless us, Alhamdulillah, MashaAllah, Shukr Allah, things like that. But when we started talking to her, she could not communicate in our language. So we did not know what she was saying, and she couldn't speak Urdu or Punjabi, which are the two languages of Pakistan. One day our mum, who sometimes would accompany us, asked her, what's your story, where are you from? And again, there was this communication distance, but my mum found out this was a refugee, an Afghani refugee. And she said, I'm from Afghanistan, lost my family, and I'm so grateful. The government has given me this cow, and they gave me this pile of wood and taught us how to get more wood, and this is how we provide for ourselves. And she blessed us and kept saying, Shukr Allah, thank you, thank you, thank you. So let me see if I can get this next slide. Yeah. This is not her image, of course, but it's these kinds of images which made me want to become a lawyer, to work towards justice, because at that time, I was really grateful. She was grateful for the help she had gotten, and I was really grateful that she was protected and helped. And I was really grateful for my government, Pakistan. And later on in life, I learned that Pakistan harbored one of the largest groups of refugees, just like Iran. Millions, 2 million refugees from Afghanistan lived at some point in Pakistan, maybe even to this day. And the same Iran. I mean, think about these numbers, 2 million. Even if Pakistan is a big country, those remain large numbers. So I was really, really happy. So this refugee was grateful. So adding on to the three identities I gave you, wanderers, warriors, refugees are grateful people. Seema Samara, who was just here telling her powerful story, it's a story of being grateful, of huge gratitude for the people who took her in. Let me tell you another story. So I was inspired by, these images I showed you, and there are many, to become a lawyer, to work on justice, and I dreamed, maybe refugees. And then I did become a refugee lawyer, went to Lagos, and I had many, many colleagues. not necessarily working with refugees at that point, and I met a doctor who had worked in many, many countries of the world, and also in Pakistan where I hadn't worked. And she said, I worked a lot with Afghani refugees, with these millions of people. And I had only worked with African refugees from Sierra Leone, from Liberia. So I was really interested because of my, anecdote from the olden days, because of this lady. I said, tell me about these refugees. How are these refugees? And I'm going to share something with you, which might sound controversial. This is what she said. They are ungrateful. They are ungrateful. I share this with you because, Anton Pijper's talked about polarization of refugees, polarization of the issues around refugees and migrants. And this is one of the identities projected onto immigrants, such as myself, but also onto refugees. They are ungrateful. This medical doctor explained, she says, well, they don't go back. They can go back, and they don't go back. They don't need this help. They are not real refugees. So these two identities, grateful and ungrateful, there's something I'm not doing which is very well. Let me go back to the other slide. It doesn't, well, I don't need to write. These I would like to add to the identities which I just mentioned. Grateful, ungrateful. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a reason why I mention this. There are positive identities, positive narratives, and there is a positive atmosphere around refugees, surrounding refugees. You feel it in this audience. But there are also not so positive stories about refugees. You feel it in broader society. And I can tell you, when I started working as a lawyer, you did not have all this negative atmosphere surrounding refugees. You have it now. It's a theme of your time. I believe it's you as a generation which will have to tackle that. You will have to deal with it. The question is a philosophical question. Is it your task or is it not your task? But I think we are living in troubling times and in hopeful times, but we need to bring the two together. How? I don't have a good answer to that, but I can maybe suggest we look into a new dimension when we talk about refugees. And let me see if I can get that on the slide. I'm looking there because I have a projected. We talk about refugees and their stories. We talk about their worries, the WWW, but we need to connect those stories with people who are not refugees, with people who also, they might also have worries, they might also be wanderers, they might also be warriors. We need to include those people also in this narrative, in the story, in the journey of refugees. They can be wonderful, good stories. And let me reflect on the family who took in Seema Samara. I can offer you one of my stories. When we just came to the Netherlands, I was 10, we came from England, and we were living in our house. And I think on the second day, on the third day, my parents had a lot of children. It's very, very Pakistani thing. So 6 children, and my little brother was just a baby. So you can imagine in a street where there are just Dutch families and they have maximum 2 children. At least in the 80s, it was this thing that you have maximum 2 children. Now it's changed. So we were very, very, I think people noticed us. So one day we were sitting in our home and the doorbell rang. And we opened the door and there was nobody. But there was this huge box of toys, wooden toys. And we looked around, there was really nobody. We thought, well, maybe it's for us. So we took them in, we played with the toys, and we enjoyed the toys. After a few days, it happened again. The doorbell rang, and this time we were warned. So we rushed to the door, we opened the door, and we forgot the toys. We saw them, of course, but we looked and we saw a lady, the neighbor, running into her house and hiding secretly. That is my Seema Samara story. When you come to this country, I think Holland is one of the most loveliest countries to live in. Of course, there are issues, but the common man really welcomes you and accepts you. And this is the story I tell. But I've also obligated myself to know this lady's story. I don't know her. And we moved from that house very quickly before we could, speak Dutch. I don't know this lady. But what are her worries today? What is her wondering today? Let me connect two other stories for you. My hairdresser is from Syria. She's very good. You can see that. She's excellent. She's a refugee. And so, it's long waiting times because she's so popular in The Hague. And one time I asked her, "Where are you from?" She said, "I'm from Iraq." Sorry, she's from Iraq. Sorry, not Syria. How could I confuse her? So I said, "Where are you from?" She said, "I'm from Iraq." I said, "Tell me, do you visit?" And she said, "No, I cannot visit." I said, "Is it unsafe?" She says, "Well, that's not the point. I cannot visit because I'll lose all my customers." So, but when I do visit, she said, I said, "So you've never been?" So I have been. You can do anything in Iraq. She said, "I can build up a business in Iraq. I can drive a car. I can go to, I can study in Iraq. I can do everything I do in Holland. But the only thing is, it's not safe for me to go and buy a sandwich anytime, as is the case in Holland." That's a very powerful story. She would go back to Iraq if it was safe. Just like Malala would go back to Pakistan if it was safe for her. I have 1 minute left. I'm going to share the second anecdote. I saw a documentary of London. London is, I was born near to London in Slough, and London has changed a lot. And there was these two old people, British people, white people, and they were talking about, we don't mind people coming into our country. We welcome people from all different places, especially if they need safety. But, things have changed for us too much. So this old lady said, "I used to go across the street and used to sing in a choir, and I used to love it. But now that choir has gone because many British people have left this neighborhood. And the only place I can sing in a choir is 1 hour and a half further on. I have to take the subway. I have to take a few subways. And it's not safe for me. It's not safe for me as a 70-year-old to take the subway, to sing in a choir in the evening and come back at 11 o'clock." I think we need to connect that story of someone who's from the Netherlands or from England who's seen their society change, and connect the story of the Iraqi hairdresser who has seen her society change and feels not safe to buy a sandwich. We need to include both stories. Let me see if I have some more. No. I get a 0, right, for technology. And I think my Iraqi should get the 10 for my hairdo. Yeah? So I shared my wandering stories. So I believe we need to do this, and it might be a controversial point, but I learned one thing when I started at university. The university is the church of ideas. So I'm really interested in your ideas. I'm really interested in, do you think that this is the way forward? That we connect the narrative of the refugee and the non-refugee? Do you believe that they also have worries, and they also, feel that they have to be a warrior of some kind? Do you think that this is the place we should do it? And do you think it will help? So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention, and I look forward to speaking with you, sharing your, listening to your thoughts on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Naema Tahir, for sharing. And now, yes, so just Helena will come for one moment, please.
We have, how do you call it in English? Well, a microphone that you can throw at the to people and you can talk. So I don't know if there are questions. I mean, there are answers for this question that Naema asked us. I think we would like to engage in a little conversation if possible. And then, so if you have a question or an answer, I can throw it at you and it works. Oh yes, it works really well. So maybe, yes, it works, it's on. So maybe we should ask the question again.
Thanks. Thank you, Naema Tahir. I agree with you that connecting stories is the way to go, but just a question, so not an answer. If I understand correctly, you say that the university is the place to do this, but why remain in the university?
No.
Okay.
It's just that the university is a church of ideas. So any change, any conversation will start with an idea. And this is the church of ideas. You're in such a privileged position. And why this topic? Again, when I was at university, this was ages ago, like 50 years ago, there was not this connection with the societal debate, not so much. And now I think it touches all of us. It touches me. The polarization is really hurtful for me. I wonder, will I be able to live in this country in 10 years? So you just wonder, what shall we do about it? And I think, come up with ambitious, fresh stories, fresh ideas. And I think students are the most optimistic people in this intellectual landscape we have in society. They are optimistic. You are the most traveled generation ever. You have the most connections with the most cultures ever. So connect that with people who may not have so many diverse connections. So that's why of course, it should be everywhere. And I think even sometimes there should be silence. There should be no discussion or debate, just silence and a silent appreciation of different cultures and peoples.
Thank you. Oh, I don't.
Here. I thought I'll go all the way.
Thank you very much. Sorry, you said something about ungratefulness of refugee, and I really want to really elaborate and expatiate on that.
Can you speak in the...
you said something about ungratefulness, like refugees are ungrateful. I really do not really get what you mean by that, and I want you to elaborate on it. Do you think that helping refugee, do you see it from the perspective of a charitable gesture or something that you think refugees really deserve to be helped? What are your take? I really want to know.
I understood your first question, the first part. Second, I'm not sure, but we can come that. It's not my view. It was a view someone pointed out to me, and it's a view I hear a lot in public debate. And what I mean with ungrateful is it just suggests that suggests two things: that if you are a real refugee, you would be grateful for just some bread and water and a tent. And because, that's one. And the second is, they do not belong here. They're not real refugees. And those are words in the public debate. And they're uncomfortable. They are. And I can imagine. And, when I came here, it was, I have a choice to make. What shall I share with you? And I think we should talk about these things. The second question is about whether helping refugees is something charitable.
Actually, I think I will actually come back on this, your topic about you saying if someone is a real refugee, then they will be grateful. Yes, part of it I really agree, but sometimes, having some complaints as a refugee about the new environment, new places you find yourself, and things that are not really, usual, and you probably make some complaints, does that really make you ungrateful if you probably have a legitimate complaint
no.
about some other things?
For me, no. No, I think we box refugees as we kind of dehumanize them. And that's wrong. We do dehumanize them, and we think if they should be happy whatever we do. They should suffer whatever we do, as long as they have a tent. No, we dehumanize them, and that's something we should not do. It's just I'm pointing out that, and I think that's the philosophical question I want to put, is it something we have to tackle? It's the sign of our times. Is it something we can help solve? I think we can. Yeah.
I'm on the way.
I thought we had a throwing. It's a throwing thing, right? You throw.
Hi, my name is Jetske. I'm from the University of Amsterdam. My topic is cultural anthropology. And one of the things that we see maybe, and I think you are pleading for this, is a shift in paradigm. Because we objectify in science. But there is no object and there is no subject. And in my, and this touches me, that's why you touch me also, that's why I'm a little bit emotional. We talk about the other with capital letters. We have to stop that. That's what you are saying. And we have to recognize we're all human beings, we all have our fears, we all have our worries, we all have children we want to see happy, we can lose health, we can be in dire straits, all of us. And if we say there's... And I think we are. In the Netherlands, 40% of people say they are lonely. We have a problem. We have a problem. And I think crisis is good. Because then everything is under the magnifying glass and you can see what mistakes we make. But how long do we have to see the mistakes? That's the thing. So I hope that we see solutions fast, and I have a lot of hope because I see a lot of young people also. I used to be a career coach for students, worrying about what am I going to do with my knowledge? How am I going to contribute in society, but to a good purpose, to make the world better, not worse. And I think all of this is connected. So we have one problem, not many different ones. But there are people in power who would like to make it a different story and who would like to make us fearful. I really think so. So if we have to tackle anything, it's the culture of fear and the culture of the other.
Thank you very much. I can't put it better than you have. So it's the othering, the dehumanizing the refugee. And I love your point about, in the Netherlands there are so many people who are lonely. And connect. I think we should connect each other, everyone, with other people. This is your, if refugees are here, this is your country. I, as an immigrant's daughter, I love Holland. This is my country. But the woman who gave me the toys, I also want to care for her. She took care of me when I was 10 years old, I want to care for her and I want to know her stories, her loneliness. So thank you very much.
Do we still have time?
Final question, I've been
Yes.
told.
Hi, my name is Hassan. First of all, please excuse my sharing for this thought, but I'm very curious to share it with you. It's a question without an answer, let's say. I'm here fresh from the AZSA, and I always had this question on my head, like, why are we staying in AZSAs with our hands cuffed? We can't study, we can't work, we can't do anything. We reach a limit where we can't even think about our future. Thank God there's like small initiatives like Incluusion, EAN, trying to help those people. But my question is, or what I think of while I'm sitting here now, and please excuse my language, shame on us. Shame on us as educated people to keep the new citizens of the Netherlands or the newcomers, I'm not gonna say refugees, the newcomers, because we all know how refugees is being showcased in the media nowadays. Again, I apologize for my tone, but it's something like I've been thinking of since the first second I arrived here. Like, I can't do anything. I've been a productive person in my home country, in my first refugee country, and now here I can't do anything. I need to wait till I get my papers, and this 6th period, I can change the world in it. So I'm sorry again, but shame on us for not being able to do anything for newcomers in this first period of their arrival in the Netherlands. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If all politicians would, apologize for the harsher language they use, your language is so soft and so relevant. So thank you. Yes, and let me bring it to my topic. If you have many educated refugees, or sometimes even migrants who cannot work, who have to still get their procedure cleared, if they connect their stories with other educated Dutch people will recognize, yes, you should work. You should be able to excel. Your potential is being wasted. There's a reason, and it's to do with policy. There's a restrictive entrance policy in the Netherlands for migrants and refugees. It's restrictive, and they want to keep people out. That's the idea behind the restrictive policies. But you're the ones who are going to change it. And it's going to have to change in all different scenery, all different ways. But I will guarantee you, if you tell the common man about, I would wish to work, they also would aspire to that. They would say, yes, of course you should work. And there's so much potential just going waste, and so many dreams just put on hold, and there's no necessity for that. Okay, I think there are 2 more questions. I'll leave it to the bosses.